This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present a collection of fandoms and exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content, and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
This episode contains spoilers from Blood Over Brighthaven, with mentions of Rogue One and author Jacqueline Benson. For full list, please see show notes. There's also discussion surrounding self-harm.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to ACOFAE, your weekly deep dive into the fantasy, literature, and fandoms that we love. I'm Laura Marie.
And I'm Jessica Marie.
And today we are discussing Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang,
which is a standalone fantasy with subgenres, according to Audible, covering steampunk, wizardry, scary, magic users, sci-fi, gaslit fantasy, magic, and witches and wizards. Laura, I know you've introduced us to Gaslamp fantasy in the past with Jacqueline Benson, but how did you get into, was this another ad? Because you read this earlier this year or in 2026, but this book came out in October 2024.
Great question. This was purely, I needed something and I recognized the cover. That's what this was, because I read this in like February of this year, 2026, around the same time that I'm actually pretty sure I read it around the same time as I read The Raven Scholar. So whenever I read that, I believe it was February, it was cold. But it was just one of those things where it's like, I remember seeing this cover. I've seen it like, in the bookstore. I've seen like people talk about it online, good and bad. I need something. Let's try this, right? Let's try this. So not technically an ad, but not technically like not, I guess, more like exposure. Like,
my question is, what were people talking bad about this?
Oh, the like, you know, the racism, the sexism, the mostly racism and the colonization, the whole, you know.
Well, those are things to be mad about, but I don't think that makes it a bad book. I feel like it puts it at the forefront to have these conversations. It's just like when people say fantasy in general and sci-fi, it's a reflection. Like, these are supposed to be the conversations that you're supposed to realize are happening in your current environment.
I agree with you, except they didn't have to be Irish, you know?
Yeah.
You know? There's a lot of things that you can choose from in a fantasy. You can make up your own thing. You don't have to make them Irish.
Yeah.
And even if that wasn't the intention, the audio, which is what I listened to, and Jess, I believe you listened to as well, the audio narrator gives these characters, the Quen, an Irish accent. So like that had to get signed off on. So, you know,
yeah.
So that was also like a major criticism of like, you know, make up your own thing.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't happen. And we are here in this story. And I recommended this to you, Jessica Marie. I've recommended this to a few people, you know, regardless of all of the conversation about it. Because to me, Laura Marie, I couldn't put this down. I read this so fast, I couldn't put it down. I was like, oh my God, I didn't see any of it coming. I was just as horrified as our characters. And I was absolutely shocked by the end of it. Absolutely shocked by the end of it. Spoilers, it's very Rogue One. Like, oh my God. So in my excitement, right, I like to share things. So I remember telling you about this, Jessica Marie. And I am so glad that you have indulged me once again on this recommendation.
Well, of course, because you haven't failed us yet with a recommendation. And I'm so glad that you did, because this was so good. It was so exciting. This is going to wind up being my new, if somebody's like asking for a fantasy rec that is kind of because it is a standalone. That's also what's kind of refreshing is I think sometimes we're so used to fantasy series or sci-fi series, that that there are more books coming and you're just like, you're like, is this going to be another thing that I want to invest time in? And I really like it because you're like, you still want to be in that fantasy sci-fi realm, but you don't know if you want to pick up another series, but you can still enjoy it as the one-off that it is. Like, this is that recommendation, I think. And I love it so much. I think I even texted you earlier during my reading saying like, oh my gosh, the groans and sounds and scoffs that are coming out of my mouth for this book. But I feel like that is what makes a good book too, is like eliciting audible responses, just like when we get really excited about books that we really love and are giggling and kicking our feet. Like, this is a different audible response. And I don't know. I'm so grateful that you did the work for us to be like, hey, so I really like this book. I really think you should read it too. And I was like, well, let's just make it an episode. Do you think we can make an episode out of it? Or is it just like one of those things with like our ever growing TBR? And we're like, no, there's so much to talk about. Just like themes alone and frustrations alone and, feminist conversations and down to the patriarchy. And I was excited that we were like, oh my gosh, let's do it. And boy, I was not expecting to have so much to talk about.
Yeah. And it's really for a standalone, right? Standalones have to give you all of the information. So there's no way around it, right? So it's a little bit of info dumping because there's no other way. So this book is hitting you with like names and places and dates and like a little bit of gospel and a little bit of rules, before all of the chapters, and like mage names, magic systems, all of these things. But it is so interesting again that I just flew through this. So I'm stoked because our main like female main character, Sciona, I was like Jess was, I was scoffing and like groaning with her and at her because she is like a product of this deep institutional racism that's happening. And she doesn't even realize it until it is, it's more than just like in her face, right? She's like, she has to interact and actually have conversations with Tommel before she even gets an inkling of what her life is like is wrong. And again, something that I really just love about this book before we get into it is that, Jessica Marie, you mentioned like Gaslamp and Jacqueline Benson. I understand that classification here, but I really do feel like it leans more steampunk because this city, Tehran, is a mechanical like wonderland. Honestly, there's like cars and trains and lights and like all of these things in a dome surrounded by wilderness and like mountains and snow. And it is like eternally spring inside. So it is just like visually, it is interesting. And then the opening when you reflect on the opening, you're like, oh my God. And thinking back, I have not felt such emotion with a character since the Everflame.
Oh,
yeah. When you're like frustrated for and with, but you're also just like, oh my God, do you hear yourself? Like,
I'm processing everything at the same time with that same fervor of not putting it down.
Yes. All right. So Jessica Marie, we've talked about it a little bit, but who are these people?
I think we'll probably, there's a lot of names. And one of the things that Laura Marie so graciously told me, she's like, go into it kind of blind. don't get boggled down with the names, because she knows I'm going to get boggled down with the names. It is the cross that we bear of, you know, being submerged in the SJM world as well. So she was like, just don't get boggled down in the names. I said, okay. Good thing I didn't, almost did, because that first chapter at this point feels like a prologue. You know, the way it also jumps from like chapter 1 to, you know, chapter 2 with like Sciona just kind of going about her day and going to catch the train, and then she's late for the train. You're like, okay. But we have Sciona, who is our female main character. And she has been practicing magic. She has been practicing spells, and she is going to kind of like a test that women aren't allowed to be mages, and we have multiple mages. All are men, because they do once every 10 years. Female is allowed to try out to, you know, if they have the skill set to be a mage. And so that's where she's going. She has one mage who is essentially her mentor. His name is Brigham, and he is one of these high mages. He, who really just kind of champions her, through her studies. We have Thomal. He says it he's like, it's like a TH sound. He is somebody who becomes her assistant, but who is also, starts off with, as a janitor, and where she is pursuing, her studies, and becomes her assistant. He is caring for his niece, Kara, who becomes a big part of the story later on in the book. And then, and we have Alba, who is her cousin, who is not Kara's cousin, Siona's cousin, and also her aunt. And her aunt is just as important, because her aunt took her in after her mother died, and her father essentially disowned her. And her father is somebody important amongst the mages in the government. So she has been raised by her aunt, who is her father's sister and her cousin. And her cousin is like her best friend. So those are really our key players. I mean, we have some other mages. We have our archmage, and then we have some, I don't want to say secondary mages, but there are other mages who Renfair is one of them, who is who's very problematic, but like all the male mages are in general.
All the male mages are in general. Sciona, our main character, right? She is going to test to become a high mage, and it's important to know that Sciona is very focused, right? She has not given the appearance of caring about anything other than her work her entire life. And everybody has kind of accepted that and cultivated an environment around her that lets her do what did they say later? Like this unmarried, you know, like unsupervised, unwomanly work, that she throws that in her face. But you know, we sacrificed all of this for you, Sciona. And Sciona doesn't. She doesn't know where the scones came from, even though the baker dropped them off in front of her face last night. She doesn't have any time for anything that isn't magic. She is singularly focused. She comes alive on the spellograph. So that is important to know, because that's where her character starts. And so at the end, when the sacrifice is made, that is her character growth. That is her complete character cycle right in front of our faces. And, you know, because this book only takes 3 months, but in those 3 months, Sciona becomes a completely different person than the person that we meet right now, going to take her test and pass her test, but get lost in her test just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Well, I mean, and even started, because I mean, that's essentially like we're 3 chapters in, and she is going to take her test. And it's so interesting because she has, you know, other, I don't want to say contestants, because it's not either or, like they're all showing their proficiency. But it's, of course, interesting that the male contestants are, oh, you can get a second try, but they're telling her to stop on her second tries when she's trying to, prove herself in these tests. And it just like immediately, I was like, it takes, you have to do twice as good to get half the credit, especially here. And then when she gets, I don't want to say worked up about it, but and I don't even want to say defensive, she is sticking up for herself and being vocal about it. Everybody's dismissive. And when I say everybody, it's because she is in a male dominated society. And, you're hearing comments of, you don't need to be so sensitive. Like, ooh, you're overreacting. And it's, it's past, present, and future is what we as women go through having commentary like that in patriarchal societies.
So Sciona is fighting the battle to become the first, woman high mage. She wins that. She's also fighting the battle, though, of like once she's in this utopia of academic, work that she thought she was going to be entering into is basically just a boys' club. And she is not invited, right? She's not invited for drinks. She's not invited, out with all the guys. She is not included in like lunches. She is completely like isolated on her own. In fact, the reason that Tommel becomes her assistant in the first place is as a joke that she cannot back down from in front of all of the other male mages. Sciona just has to like grin and bear it and make the best of it and deal with it. And obviously like it's a plot device and it drives our plot forward. But in these instances, before we know anything, you are frustrated for her. You're frustrated for this male-dominated society. So there's 100 mages, so she's got 99 men just milling around her, right? But Sciona is a manual magic sorcerer, and her job is to find new sourcing, ways so that she can work on the barrier expansion project. And everybody is going to give a presentation on what they found in like, I don't know, like 3 months or whatever.
Yeah, it's like they said less than 3 months. It's like 73 days or something.
Yeah, they have to like present what they found. And in that time frame, so much happens. And it is so interesting. And again, one of the reasons why I really love this book, and Jessica Marie, you know this, and longtime listeners, y'all know this as well. But when somebody has to deconstruct their religion, I love that. And that's what ends up happening here, because Sciona is not like a deeply religious person, but those fundamentals are drilled into her. And when somebody challenges her, she gets angry and she gets defensive and she gets mean and she gets racist, and she doesn't even like realize it until down the line.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, the comments that she makes specifically to Tommel, I don't even want to say you're cringing. You're like, ooh, you're just so like you're taking it too far for no reason. And he has every right to be upset. And you even when she goes to apologize about like, hey, look, I took it too far. I really think she was expecting like an immediate apology, like, I forgive you. And just because you apologize, that doesn't make it an automatic, oh, it's okay, you're all forgiven. No, it's not. And again, a lot of the characters we read forgive a lot more easily than we do. But you know who doesn't is Tommel's niece, Kara. I love that for her. Kara is that girl, and she keeps Sciona on her toes. She keeps her checked, and I love that because Sciona needs it.
Sciona does need it because the system that she is steeped in is corrupt and she doesn't know it. Tommel knows it on one level and everybody's going to know it on another level soon. Okay, so what are we talking about? Let's set this up before we continue on in the story. All right, so the city of Tehran is in a dome, right? As we said, it is always springtime. It is surrounded by snow and mountains and beyond that, who knows? Nobody really knows. Nobody goes out there. Okay. It was founded by like a group of mages, I think 5. One of those mages was half Quen. That's important. Stravos. He was half Quen. Quen are the general name for all of the people and land outside of the barrier. Okay. So, I mean, in this case, they're Irish. They're the Irish. Okay. So that is the city. The mages set it up, the barrier, all of that stuff. To do that, they did this magic with coordinates and barrier spells and spellographs and specific lines. And then when they finished, they looked at it and went, okay, half of this is going to be illegal for everybody else now. Okay. Because if they knew, the city would crumble. So God says that half of this, like these coordinates here, this, circle, don't source from these coordinates, don't source from here. Like, this, and this. Don't make the sourcing windows clearer. Make sure they're only like balls of light. Make sure you can't actually see. And it is forbidden for anybody to make better windows into the other realm. And then Jessica Marie, what the fuck is the other realm?
The other realm is where the Quen come from.
Oh my God. When that whole reveal, because that reveal happens like towards the end of the book. That whole reveal, I was just like, oh my God, because it is astonishing to take in the scope of how much murder, not even like murder, death, because like, I guess you're murdering trees and plant life too. Like, that's murder. All of the murder that has to happen to fuel the city. So like, we're not there yet, but it is astonishing to imagine that source of energy. And then to think that these men, just normal dudes who were good at their job, decided to consecrate themselves and make themselves holy and say that God told them to do this.
Of course they did.
Of course they did. They wrote it all down. They made laws about forbidden coordinates and things you can't do. And then they passed it off as doctrine. And they've been doing this now for, I think, like 300 years.
Yeah, it was over 300 years. And they knew about it the whole time. And here you have, you have Sciona just going ahead and like figuring this out and going to the person who championed her and her mentor, because there's no way that he would be doing this without her knowledge, and he wouldn't know about this. And he's like, oh, so the thing is, I was kind of hoping you weren't going to find out right away. We kind of known, but it's all like, we're all like really hush hush about it. I should have guessed you're not just any person. You are my mentor, and you are my mentee. I'm sorry. And she's like, wait, you knew? Like, feels betrayed. And this is where he goes, honestly, you've been so tunnel visioned in your studies all this time. I didn't think it was going to make a difference to you either way, which that's when she's like, oh, I really have been kind of tunnel vision, stuck in my ways, kind of selfish, because, and she has these character development moments, because she also says like, I don't even know that you have this family to Tamil. Like, she's realizing how, I don't want to say self-centered, but just like how hyper focused she was on her studies. And that's its own thing, because you come to find out, like, she's like, I have to prove myself. I need to have a reason. And I also want it to be a big fuck you to my dad and the government, because I take ownership of how well I perform. He has no contribution to this.
This whole thing is so interesting. Does it follow the pattern? Yes. I'm getting better about that. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. It follows the pattern. I can tell you why. Because by chapter 5, Tamil is already like very deep into being an assistant. The crash course in magic has already happened. The explanation of the forbidden coordinates and the other realm has already happened. and Tommel starting to kind of poke at Siona's beliefs and her. It's like her beliefs, but also like her social structure. Cause like she's talking about how, the bad work of the mages made the bridge collapse, but like at least no one died. And Tommel goes, well, all these Quen died. And she goes, well, that wasn't reported. He goes, well, why would it be? She goes, oh. And there are little instances like that build up, but eventually she just like, she explodes on Tommel a few times. One time she has to go wash the dishes with him. Another time she goes and brings him like baked goods at his house. Like she is like so nasty to him. But I one thing I really do like about this book is that I do feel like a lot of the reactions of people are realistic. Especially later on when Tommel starts telling Siona, like, Siona, everybody knows, and you're going to go tell them, and you need to play along because they're going to try to kill you. And like all of these things. And Siona, it's a bad idea. You're going to open these windows. Everybody's going to see. They're going to panic. There's going to be riots. Like, you don't understand. Like,
and you're going to be the scapegoat for all of this too. Like Tommel already knows because he's kind of lived it and understands pattern recognition and has kind of been he was the unseen help being the janitor for as long as he is. He's in and out of these rooms and understanding what the conversation already is. He's like, you don't need to prove yourself to me. And he's right all of the time, and I feel like that is where Sciona kind of like questions everything. But at the same time, I do like, even through her outbursts, she does tell him, she's like, never stop questioning me. Because like, even, and again, I think that it's it's forcing her to think outside of and challenge her, because but then she's doing the, I think of one of the conversations she's having with one of the other mages where they're talking, she's like, she's talking about God or gods, and they're like, don't be blasphemous about it. And she's like, it could be a god. There could be multiple gods, maybe not our God. And she is the disruptor in this system. And that's something that, and it sucks because Brigham already tells her, and he says this like back in chapter 6, you are a threat to their comfortable mediocrity, which you're like, wow. I remember reading it and I was like, I don't trust him. And then throughout the book, I was like, maybe he really is. Maybe I'm just jaded. I'm so used to not, men not championing women. But it also like feeds his own ego, because then again, and that's proven, where he's like, I could have had credit that you were the first female mage. Like, that's to his hubris. And so when he's saying stuff like that, you're like, yeah, she is challenging everything, all for him to be complicit in all of it as well.
Not
all men, but
but like in this case, it is all men. Like it is all men in this case, except Tommel, but he is not of the same class, so I would say it is all mages. It is, because except maybe Madra, because he's a big pussy, but that's okay. So by the end of chapter 5, I just get, again, going with the pattern, Tommel asks Siona out for an after work drink because all of the other mages went out without her, and he wants to include her. And it is there that she is called the Madra, right? Like in the Quen language. And that is just like, that's plot we're going to pick up later. What's that? We're going to pick that up later. Because those are the witches. So it is really interesting. And then from 6 on, we get more into it. But Jess, you're right. Like Brigham is such a complicated character because he is championing women. But also in championing women, he is also running a black site sterilization project, because his factories use dye that make Quen women have stillbirths. And he's like, well, yeah, but like, I'm keeping the population down. Like, they breed like rabbits, you know that. And by that point, when that conversation's happening, that's like the second or third time that has been said. Like, Sciona has said that, and Brigham said it. I think somebody else said it too. And he's like, yeah, we tried to keep the population down. And that is after Tommel tells the story of his like ex-girlfriend who really wanted to have a baby, and she had one and it was a stillbirth. And he's like, yeah, that just like happens to him, you know, to the women that work in the factories. And Sciona just has like a really hard time reconciling that, because she's like, yeah, but like, he employs the most Quen women out of anybody. He respects women. He championed me. He wants to advance women. But like, what he's actually doing is using women and building his legacy and progress off of their hard work and on their backs.
She's still, Sciona is making excuses because she doesn't want to she's like not grasping the reality, and still like I feel like she's in that, when this is happening, she's in that learning, like she's seeing the reality but doesn't want to accept the truth, more or less, and still make excuses because it's also, well, he championed me, he's doing all of this.
Yeah, he's doing all of this. He has to be a good person, right? And that kind of goes into the difference in morality between
You took the words out of my mouth, because I love this conversation.
It's so good, and it's just so interesting, and I really, really just love like what we were like kind of going through with both of them trying to understand each other. So there is throughout all of this time, Tommel and Sciona are working together on the barrier expansion program. The two of them are in close quarters, even though they are of different classes, and they are needling each other. They are very good working together. And Tommel is able to make a conduit by himself. He's able to do all of this stuff. And he has, though, a problem with a couple of the mages. But he also has a problem with the gods, the difference in the gods, and essentially he's tired of Siona's religious dogmatic bullshit. And Sciona makes the I guess mistake, kind of, because she gets mad at him, of asking him to explain the difference in morality, and how can there be a difference in morality? And Jess, I know you're excited about that.
Well, I love where he's like, well, we have a difference in morality, and she's like, what do you mean? Because she's already thinking that they're the same. And what do you mean you're different than mine? Isn't morality? And he essentially explains like what I think is good. And then kind of like her people think, you know, it's the worst type of person where they're doing bad things, but they justify what they're doing, and they believe through their justification that still makes them a good person. And that's what he's trying to say. He goes, you think what you're doing is right, but in the grand scheme, and gives her scenarios, and he's like, but in the grand scheme of it, it's still wrong. Just because you justified it for you, that doesn't make it right.
Yeah, and Tommel basically says, he gives her an example of like a man that had really good intentions, but every time he acted on those intentions, he made the life of everybody around him worse. You know, and then another man who is kind of evil and kind of an asshole, but through all of his work and everything that he did, made the lives of everybody around him better in some way. So which is the better man? And Tommel says, the second one, the man who made everybody around him whose lives better, even though he didn't intend that, because it's the consequences of his actions that were totally at the end. And Siona's people say that, like, you know, the path to hell is paved in good intentions, essentially, is the theme of this book. Right.
Yeah.
And she says, no, I intended to do good. That means I am good. And then Tommel says, you know, we have this saying of this gray area of like, picture it of like you have a valley inside of you. And if you work hard enough, you can form a river in the valley to fill yourself up with goodness, but you have to do the work. Otherwise, you are empty and a husk, essentially. And that's such an interesting take on morality. And Jessica Marie, something that I really loved, I don't know, the book is just so fast paced, but something that I really loved is Sciona and Tommel are talking, and Tommel recognizes some runes that he has seen before, and Sciona does not believe him. She does not believe him. She goes, essentially, that's bullshit. And he goes, no. And he says, like, it was out there. I saw it. It was out in the Quen, da-da-da-da-da. And he tells her the story of the witches, the Quen witches, and how they were a community of women practicing like home magic, and Sciona, I mean, this is the rest of the plot essentially for the book, but Sciona puts together that Stravos, the half Quen mage that helped make the barrier 300 years ago, he learned the Quen witch magic from his mother, and then he was able to apply it to the barrier to form Tehran. So he stole it because he was taken by Leon. And Leon, I'm going to put it in air quotes, had a vision from God on a mountain. Wow, sounds familiar. And he had to take this knowledge and this power from the Quen. And Sciona says, because it was safer in our hands, because, the Quen, they like lose things. She doesn't even
she's so her microaggressions towards the Quen, and I don't even want to say they're micro because she's just so, is it oblivious to the word? I mean, she it's this ingrained, I guess, like you said, this ingrained racism that she has towards this, towards the Quen that she doesn't even realize she has.
Yeah.
Because she has been indoctrinated and raised in a culture that hasn't shown her otherwise. I mean, it's the same thing even when she's learning about the history, and he points out, like you had said, history is written by the victors. Why would anybody write anything negative about her people?
It's so interesting, and then they talk about the deep magic of community and the power of women stolen from the women, taken and applied only men in the city.
Yeah, the women are doing all of the work and how all of the men take the credit for the women. But that's also not just this book. This is very much applicable to real life. And if you look at history through sciences and just a lot of things, honestly, even in literature, that men are taking their women's work, their wives' work, because wives are only good to be in the kitchen and making babies.
This is where the plot picks up. This is where it's kind of like the beginning of the end. I remember when I read this week, this second time, I remember having this pit of dread in my stomach, because
you knew.
I knew. I was like, it's here. They're so excited. They're so excited with the discovery because Sciona has done it. After all of this time, Sciona has done it. She has cracked the code. She has used the forbidden coordinates. She has mapped where she shouldn't map. She has done what she shouldn't have done. She's read the forbidden work and put it all together. And she's created a Freynan window, which is a crystal clear color window into the other realm, which is just the world beyond the barrier. And she is so excited because this is what she needed to do for her presentation. This was her job, that she has done it. She's completed her work. And she opens it. And it opens onto a snowy area, and there's animal tracks. And she's like, And Tommel sees it. And he picks up the spellograph, and he throws the spellograph, and he loses his mind. He loses his mind. He goes, that's the Quen. That's the Quen. And Sciona siphons, and that's blight. That's blight, says Tommel. That is blight. And when you sit there and you think about it, it is an overwhelming, devastating revelation that is happening. And the second time, you're just like, ugh.
Because your heart is breaking when he's even saying, I don't need to live through this again. I know what you're doing. I've had, my family ripped from me because of this and what you're doing.
And, Siona's upset, right? She sees this. She cannot believe Tommel. She thinks that he's wrong, whatever. They get into an argument about this, and she says the nastiest stuff. About blight. She goes, blight is deserved. It manifests among the unwashed, maybe because you're Quen and you rejected God.
You people deserved it.
Blight is meant for you. It's not meant for us because you had the opportunity to repent and come live with us 300 years ago. So you chose not to. So you deserve this. You're heathens. And he is just like, are you shitting me? Are you absolutely shitting me? She calls him ungrateful. She calls him a savage. She goes, well, what else could you expect from a race of cannibals? Like, she says all of that to his face, and then she slaps him.
This was their worst fight.
Yeah.
This had me shook.
Yeah.
There is nothing, you say that you're frustrated for her and at her. This kind of made me feel like she was unforgivable at this point.
She was, your people died because God willed it, because you deserve it. And Tommel goes, you worship delusion. And he kind of rushes at her and she panics and she grabs a bomb that she has made on her belt. And she is shaking and Tommel is shaking and he ends up leaving and she can't, and Sciona can't get it out of her mind what Tommel has said. So she has to prove it. And this again is just like a 1-2 punch because she goes back to the spellograph. She maps a common spot. She sees the ocean. She sees a village. She sees a woman with black hair and black eyes and a girl in the ocean collecting shells. She siphons and the girl's arm unravels in front of Siona's eyes. She sees the blight. She strikes the spellograph. She tries to stop it. The girl is bleeding out even though she stopped the spell and she dies. And Sciona is not, this is her breaking point.
Yeah.
She is not the same after this. And she is a completely different person after this.
This, because it was right in front of her. She proved herself wrong, She proved Tommel right, herself wrong. Everything that she has known before, she was just being challenged in theory and conversations up until that point to her. But this was logic and not emotional. This is fact at this point because she's seeing it firsthand and she's still processing everything to the point where she spirals into a manic depression and wants to kill herself. She is very much connecting everything that she has done up until this point regarding siphoning and mapping and, just her powers and what that means and how everything's connected. And she is questioning her worth to the point that her family calls a professional and a medical professional in their world. And they're like, you didn't tell me that this was,
mage.
This is our high mage. This is our female high mage. We have to be secretive about this. And the medical professionals are like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And it's where she also has her, I'm going to prove it, but also I am high mage. You are working for me, and realizes, and it kind of clicks in this moment for her that she has to play a role. She's like, actually, I'm fine. You're right. It's just me. This is never going to happen again. Because this is, like you said, her turning point, that she has to start leaning into some of these biases to get to the next step. But then she's always meeting another barrier. It's like when she comes back to Brigham and she thinks she can be she keeps thinking she could be truthful with the people that she is encountering along the way between this point and towards the end of the book. And she realizes that she actually doesn't have anybody in her corner. Everybody else has their ulterior motives and their own agenda. And she is doing this alone with the help of Tamil.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, from here on out, everything goes fast as hell. So, Sciona, okay. So Sciona, before her breakdown, is screaming hysterically in her office. Brigham comes in, lies to her, tell her she's been cursed. All of this is fake. She's been cursed. Go home. She goes home and, as Jess says, has a nervous breakdown, and under the threat of lobotomy, pulls her shit together and does a little bit of recon work, figures out through talking to Ansel, the baker, that the border guards know that something is going on, and that the border guards throw Quen back and let Blight take them if they can't work or if they're hurt. And so the border guards they're complicit in like some sort of way. Okay. And so after Sciona pulls her shit together, she gets some buns and she goes to Tamil and Kara. And Tamil has admitted to Kara that he has feelings for Sciona at this point. And Sciona goes and Kara is like, fuck you, bitch. I hate you, which is great. We love it. We love it. She doesn't let up on that. You know, they bond a little bit, but she's still like, fuck you. It's great. But Sciona goes and she says, look, I have a plan. I am simply going to tell everybody. I'm going to tell all the mages. I'm going to show them. And when they see it with their own eyes, they're good people and they won't have to kill people when they use my mirrors. We can siphon from smaller sources. We can make sure that human life is fine. And Tamil looks at her and he goes, essentially, you delusional bitch. What sustains human life? The environment around it. You can't kill the environment and expect the people to be okay and be like, no, it's fine because we didn't kill you. We just killed everything around you. You're doing it again with the intentions. Bullshit, Sciona. Like, no, you can't do this. And actually, if you do this, they will kill you. And Siona's like, actually, no, because I'm gonna go tell my mentor first. Yeah. And then I'm gonna go show everybody. Right. And Tamil is like nervous about this. He's like, they will murder you.
He's nervous and exasperated because he knows the truth of her people. He has lived it. He has experienced it, and he can't knock sense into her.
Yeah. He can't knock sense into her. It has to be done herself. And it is when Sciona goes to Brigham and she confesses everything, and he looks at her and he goes, oh my dear, you're just too smart. I knew you wouldn't buy my curse story. This is something that we ease mages into over years and years and years. And through this conversation, Sciona realizes that not only did he know, that everybody else knows, because everybody that has been a mage 5+ years knows. And it is horrifying to Sciona that all of them are complicit in murder and they're not doing anything about it. And she then realizes that Tamil was right and she has got to play along because her life is in danger if she does not. And that is difficult for Sciona because she is having her entire worldview crushed again.
And in the beginning, when she's having this conversation and you know her internal thoughts are, I'm surprised that he's not surprised, which is so interesting. But she starts to, I feel like this is the point where she's like, I'm now officially in survivor mode, or so you think, because then you have Mage Renfair. She knows that he knows the truth now, and he's like, they're saying you're crazy. We should kind of do this together. And she's like, why? Because you have nothing under your belt. You want my credit. and you want my work and you take the credit. Absolutely not. I'm fine without you, because he's trying to say like, oh, you don't have an assistant anymore. You can't essentially present by yourself. And he forces himself on her. And prior to that, he's like saying like, oh, now we could have this. We both know. And she's thinking, oh, wow, he's just as interested in this. Maybe he's a good person. Maybe we have similar objectives. And then when she realizes that he kind of gets off on killing people, she's like, oh. And it's interesting because she's still trying to see the good in everybody when it has constantly been proven that there is no good. But to what you said, when everything's unraveling for her, she is thinking their intentions are good, so therefore they are good.
Yeah, and it's just so bad. So Sciona has to fire, quote, quote, Tommel to save face after this like library fiasco, because she uses a bomb to detonate him after Tommel punches him out. It's a whole thing. And Sciona goes back to her aunt and is like, hey, fix this spellograph. I have to like do this presentation. I have to like fix this with spell web, like all of this stuff. And it's here that she gets her like big idea of like what she's going to do. Because she says to Tommel, like, Tommel, we're surrounded by devils. Like this is all devils. So she ends up writing, all of this spell work to, I mean, let's just lay it out here. Sciona writes all this spell work. She sneaks in with Kara. She lays out all the spell work. And what it is at the strike of noon that the siphoning to expand the barrier will happen. And the siphoning will take place in Leon's Hall. And Leon's Hall is where Siona's trial will happen, and all 100 mages will be there. So the 100 mages will be the siphoning energy source for the barrier expansion. And Sciona will sacrifice herself, but only if Tommel hits the final key on the spellograph. It has to be his decision to do that. And that, I just thought that was really something, because again, like what can she do? But the sabotage that Sciona builds in says like after all of the mages are dead, then the siphoning will go to the reserve, and it will siphon all of the weapons, then it will siphon all of the cars, then it will siphon all of the trains. Like it'll siphon all of this energy until the barrier reaches its maximum expansion. Hopefully then the Quen will be able to flee and get out of the city. Of course, that's what ends up happening at the end of the book, but we're not there yet. Crazy stuff. This book is crazy. Absolutely crazy. Okay. Sciona does all that. She has keys made, stolen and, made so she can sneak into all of these offices. She gives her presentation. Jess, how do you feel about this presentation that she gave?
The presentation where she then exposes everybody shows, and I say exposes everybody, but she's also like, I'm going to show the public what all has been done, thinking everybody's going to be okay with it. They're finally going to see what we've been doing and want better. She's still... let's remember, Tommel has been right about everything up until this point. And she's still thinking, you know what, this is my last ditch effort. She's still thinking that the city will be on my side when we expose them. No, she exposes what's being done, and the city is spiraling because now everybody is witnessing. It's interesting because it's like Spoiler Crescent City. They're watching on a monitor what's happening in real time, and it's terrifying the citizens. And she's like, oh, this isn't working out the way I thought. And I mean, you cause mass chaos, you cause mass hysteria, because nobody knows what they're seeing. They are terrified that all they're witnessing is murders.
And she didn't think about what the Quen would do, and the Quen riot, because obviously they riot. So, and Siona's like, what's happening? And they're like, you stupid girl, the Quen are rioting. She's like, huh. I didn't think about that. Damn. Because obviously after Sciona exposes all of the mages and says, like, you're all basically mass murderers, fuck you, and then shows the world what is going on, they arrest her. And they set her up and they put her like in jail, and then she's under house arrest with Brigham, and she goes on a little joyride with Jarvis and his like tank car, his riot vehicle, you know, whatever. But it is this confrontation between Alba and Sciona that I find so realistic and like so interesting, and like something that I really haven't read before in another book.
Right.
So like Siona's in jail and Alba comes down and sees her again. Alba's her cousin, her like best friend. And Alba starts screaming at her. You know, you did this. You did this. Did you ever think about us? They're saying that you did this. Like, our shop's been ransacked. Like, how could you do this to us? Basically, you selfish bitch. You never think about the consequences of anything. I never want to speak to you again. Never come home. And she slaps her. And Sciona is shocked. This is something that she never, ever, ever considered.
Well, and again, it's Alba holding a mirror up to her at this point, because she's like, we have protected you this whole time. We have made excuses for you so you can pursue the things that you wanted to do with not an ounce of gratitude.
Yeah, like absolutely no gratitude. Like this is how you thank us for all of the years, like we said in the beginning, of providing you with an environment where all you could do is study and ignore us. Like, we were fine with that, and then you go and ruin our civilization, ruin our lives. It is very interesting what happens when people have their like comforts threatened, right? And that's like the theme of the book, right? Delusion is like, you know, knowledge over comfort, you know, progress over delusion, you know, all of these things. Like, so this delusion, and Sciona is sitting there. It's just like, you know, trying to argue with our boomer parents. Siona's like, but like, don't you see that, like, every time you do this, you are killing somebody? And Alba is like, don't you see that all of my hard work, like, I have earned on, like, by myself? Like, I don't care where the power comes from, because I have earned everything that I have. And Sciona is like, how can you not care about where the power comes? And it's just this fundamental disconnect that they cannot bridge. They do not bridge. They do not make up. They never see each other again. And it ends like that for the two of them.
And it's interesting because there was a point at the beginning of the book that Sciona was like that. That was where her, and she is in that, but my mind was changed, so I can change people's minds too. She really is in this like utopic version of how she thinks she can change the world. She really wants, like, look at the growth that I had. But again, like you said, it's that fundamental difference where some people, you're not going to change minds. It's going to be you're beating your head against a brick wall, no matter what facts you present, no matter what information you share, it's going to fall on deaf ears.
Well, falling on deaf ears is Siona's trial. Siona's there. She's like, Paramus. She's like, hi, Daddy. Hi, Daddy. He's like, whoa, no.
He didn't want to be associated with you before. He definitely doesn't want to be associated with you now.
No. And Sciona basically is sitting there and she goes, look, please use my spells. I left them all here for you. Please use my spells to create a new Tehran. One that doesn't have its foundations built on blood and mass murder. We can be better. We can do better. We don't need to be like this. And, you know, death. Actually, though, Sciona, death. We don't care. You have fundamentally altered the status quo, and we need to work really hard to sweep this up. There was a huge riot. We lost a lot of workers. We can't do this. We can't do this. So you need to die. And it's like right now, though, like death immediately. They're like, here, drink this, die now. It was so fast.
It was so fast. It was so fast to the point that, and I was telling you when we started recording, before we started recording, I was still expecting her to show up. And they said, oh, it's going to happen pretty instantaneously. And then Tommel shows up, and I think something's going to happen here. I'm thinking this whole time, like, not in a romance way. I'm thinking there's going to be an antidote. I think it's going to prolong. Maybe the poison isn't going to work. And then I had to re-listen to it. I go, oh, she's the thing. And you're always the first person I think of, because I'm like, damn, the thing happened.
The thing happened. So what is the thing? So, Sciona, do you have any final words? And she's shaking and she's laughing, and the dome is shaky. Everybody's panicking. Tommel has finished the spell. So Tommel has finished the spell. We flash to Tommel, and he's talking to Kara, and he says, like, I can't be the one to make this choice. Like, you are the future. You're the future of the tribe. I'm too old. You need to live with the consequences. I will shield you. You do not need this on your conscience, but like, tell me what to do. And she says, kill them all. And Tommel is like, bet, actually. Yeah, totally. And he hits the button. And, Sciona, it is important to know that Sciona and Tommel did get to fucking. They did get one night.
Good for them. Good for them. But that being said, I don't consider this a romantasy.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. So after the button gets pushed, and then the mages start unraveling with blight because they're being siphoned to power the barrier spell, just like Sciona said. So all of the mages, they're rushing to the doors, they're trampling over each other, but it doesn't matter because it's blight. It's going to get them no matter what. So they all unravel into flesh and bone. And Siona's like one of the last to go. And she's sitting there unraveling. And she's like, make it better. Da, 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 da. Fantastic stuff. It's just stuff you don't see. You just don't see very often. She's taken by blight. I keep saying Rogue One, but it's the only thing that I can think of, like, off the top of my head that has an ending even similar to this. Okay. This is the end of the book, more or less. Tommel and Kara are sobbing. He realizes that he loved her, and, she has thawed Tommel's heart, and now he's ready to, like, be a member of the people and to be, like, very active in Kara's life. Okay. So now they start fleeing the city, and they meet up with another group of people fleeing the city as the barrier is expanding. So the barrier is expanding, and they're running behind it, and trying to reach the mountains. And of course it's freezing outside. So they've got, all the gear that they can, but before they go, Redfield tracks them and is like with Madra, and is like, damn, she did it. Damn, she did it from over here. Tommel, I see you. Damn. And Kara fucking kills the shit out of him as
Love
she
her.
does. As
Love
she
her.
does. Yes.
I know you're doing. Yes. I was like, locking it when I was listening to it, because it's great. It's good. And I said this before. Before we started recording, I don't know if I said it when we've been recording, but Kara has eventually come around to, I don't want to say liking Sciona, but respecting her, maybe. I think that's really the better word, because he's also in denial up until these points that that's really what she means, wanting to take everybody down, and she's going to go down with her. And she goes, trust me, uncle, it's a girl thing. And it is girlhood, wanting men to die and taking them down, for being accountable for their actions. And I kind of love that. And I love that she is the character that we would be, I think. Calling people out, holding them accountable, and being angry. Because she's also my uncle might have forgiven you, but that doesn't, I know what you put him through. I don't have to forgive you. And that's really the base of all female friendships.
Which is so funny because, like, as Kara is, like, getting off of his dead body, Tommel is like, hey, other mage Madra, look at me, you're looking at me real good. Remember this. Change things now. Of course, he's the, like, pussy mage from the beginning of the book. So he's like, oh shit, because he's the only mage left. He is the only one left. He and Renthorn were out murdering people and didn't make it back in time for Siona's vote. So they were not in the tower to be siphoned. So now there's one mage left. Okay.
He's the little bitch that you always leave alive that runs back. Yeah, to send the message.
Yep. So again, all of the Quen are running. We are one people. We are one purpose. The barrier stops at the slopes. They get out of the barrier. It's freezing cold. The stars are clear. They make for the caves. They're one people, and they make for hope. They finally feel hope. And that's the end of the book. Tommel and Kara are alive. The Quen have escaped. The city has expanded, and all of the mages except one are dead. And the society knows where their energy comes from now and is left in chaos. I mean, what a great standalone.
I just want to recommend, no wonder you've been recommending it to everybody. It should keep being recommended. I love it. It's great. I'm ready to read it again. It's so fun. You're so angry. I know you read this 2/2.5 times. Is there a favorite part that you had? Are there just is there a favorite theme? Because if you're going to ask me what's my favorite part, I don't know which one to specify, to zero in on.
Well, I think everybody listening knows that I'm a big sucker for dark academia and magical school. That's what we're here for. She's testing to become an archmage, but she's still working in the lab doing experiments, man. She's still kind of in school. I love that setting. I love the magic in school doing experiments and talking out magical problems with somebody else and kind of working together. And I really enjoy that. I also enjoy the conversations between Sciona and Tommel in the beginning before they're just hitting each other, where they're slowly prodding and poking at each other, and you kind of get that religious discourse between them.
Yeah.
I love that shit.
Yeah, I really liked their, because I don't want to say it's openness, because it's definitely not openness from her, but having that discourse that challenges somebody's thought process. I think that's just so important and is so essential in having those thought-provoking conversations. I can't gloat enough that you recommended this and that we get to talk it through. That's the only thing. Obviously this is a spoiler-filled episode, so if you're listening, you've probably recommended this book to other people as well. So thanks for joining us on that.
I also just want, before we wrap, I also just want to point out that I enjoy this book for the fact that it kind of illustrates that no matter what happens in your personal growth journey, it is almost impossible to change the mind of a group of men. And sometimes it is easier to just take them out than it is to sit there and beat your head against the wall and spit logic and facts at them, because they will not listen.
No, even with the logic and facts, because that's also another conversation that she has where everybody's always throughout this whole book, if you are a woman reading this, there is not one thing one of the male mages have said that we haven't heard ourselves. Women are too emotional. This is why women shouldn't be in this field. This is why you shouldn't have a career. You shouldn't be pursuing all of this. And then when she's being logical, she's thinking like a man. She's being told by men, oh, you're being too logical about this. There's some gray. And she's like, are you kidding me? Are you actually fucking kidding me? Because this whole premise that women can't do this job is because we're too emotional. And now I'm being logical, and that's too much for you too. It's never going to be enough. Men are never, and it's not that women are enough. Men are never going to accept women when it contradicts them. And just like we said, and just like Brigham said, that they are, you are a threat to men's comfortable mediocrity. And I have one of my coffee mugs that I have hanging in my kitchen. It says, and I think we've said this before, have the confidence of a mediocre white man. And she did. And she did that. And she took them down. So we love that. That being said, feel free to follow us on Instagram or at ACOFAE Podcast. We're also both on TikTok, ACOFAE Laura and ACOFAE Jessica. And we're also on YouTube. But please feel free to rate us 5 stars on any of your listening platforms. We'd so greatly appreciate it. Thanks so much. And we'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.
Bye.